So it's not for kids.
The little old lady who swallowed a fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've read that story?
I didn't read that growing up. I heard about it in passing from other children. But I was reading it to my daughter with no context. Like, it was new to me. Spoiler free. And I know a lot of kids' books are kind of outlandish and bizarre, but like that one really threw me for a loop. I'm like, I don't even know if I should be reading this to you. This is like a little horrifying.
This is some grimdark stuff right here. This is fucked up. It's like SpongeBob. New SpongeBob.
It's like 40K universe, you know?
Yeah, the little old lady is like the goblins or whatever. What are the goblins called? The chaos?
You mean the orcs spelled wrong?
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar, because you're like me, you didn't grow up with it, The Little Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly is a rhyming picture book where an old lady swallows a fly. We don't know why. And then to keep the fly company or to eat the fly, I'm not
She's
really
trying
clear.
to catch the fly. She swallows a spider to go after the fly. That part makes sense, I think. I think like the logic really tracks on the first two bugs. Like, you know, you can just be minding your own. A fly, it's coming around. You open your mouth because you're coughing. The fly goes in. You swallowed it. Mistakes happen. And then the first thought you have is like, okay, well, but if I get a spider in there, it'll take care of that business for me. Right?
Yeah, that's what I always think of, like, when I swallow my flies.
It's like this part's fine, okay? But then it's after the spider where it gets really fucked up. What does she go after the spider? It's like,
I don't know. She eats like progressively larger animals where you're like, how does she eat them?
Like, I think it's a cat. It just jumps to cat. Like,
in every picture, the lady becomes more and more like Junji Ito, where her face becomes more concerned and depraved, and then her body just becomes this like abnormally strange shape. Like, I can't even say she gets bigger. She gets like gross. Like she looks inhuman.
You must have a very interesting picture version of this, because I just have like mine's just like she looks like a big orb from the beginning.
Oh no, in this one she's like just like an old lady looking, you know, and like not thin, but like, you know, kind of just like how they draw old ladies in storybooks. And then she just gets like grosser and larger. To be clear, I'm not fat shaming. I'm not saying she gets grosser because she gets bigger. Like she becomes a strange shape.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they kill her. Like they don't even like do the whole like, oh, we're gonna allude to her being dead because it's a kid's book. They straight up are just like, she swallows a horse and then she dies.
Yeah, because the rhyme at the end is like, it's always like, I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Perhaps she'll die. Yeah, then it gets to the end and it's like, there was an old lady, she swallowed a horse. She's dead, of course. It's like a big punchline. But when you look at the images, it really is like, you're just like, whoa, and then just like dead.
And then just have a picture of like an old lady. She has like a chest burster. Like her body has just been pierced through and exploded. There's just like gore everywhere. I
think it's an important lesson for children, though, really, at the end of the day. It's like, swallow a fly. Well, if you swallow a fly, just stop at the spider. Like, you know, don't get to the horse. When you're at the horse, it's too far gone.
Are you talking metaphorically, or are you just saying like for real, if you swallow a fly?
Like legitimately, if you ever find yourself a fly got in your mouth,
I would say don't swallow the spider. I don't want my kids swallowing spiders.
Yeah, you know, I feel like that's a bit of like a cultural thing, though. Like, I think that's just because you're an American.
Okay. Welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating the board games that have stood the test of time. I'm your host, Kenny Katayama.
And I'm your spider-eating host, Tom Bowers. Today, our featured topic is playing through your Shelf of Shame. What is a Shelf of Shame? Should you even feel shame for it? We're going to get into all that, but before we talk about it, let's just talk about some of the crap we've been playing recently. Kenny?
Tom, I got to play a number of games of Finca from 2009.
I think you're going to tell me about this game.
Yeah, I think we're going to make a lot of these jokes during this part. This is Wolfgang Sentker and Ralf zur Linde, published by Hans im Glück.
A Wolfgang that doesn't end in Kramer? Whoa.
Yeah. Finca is a game about harvesting fruit and then distributing them to your village. And the way you do that is by going around a sort of rondel where the different fruit are listed. What's cool about the game is that your pieces move the number of spaces on the rondel equal to the number of workers that are currently on that space. And then they produce the number of the fruit that they land on equal to the number of workers on that space. So you're functionally playing this kind of like game of Mancala, where you're bouncing the pieces around the board and you have to think about like, I want to set these folks up so that this guy can move 4 spaces so that I can collect 3 of this fruit because it's 4 away or something. And what you functionally have is a very streamlined action selection system that feels fresh and has like a ton of depth to it. Now, what I will say is the rest of the game is kind of your traditional fulfill contracts. Like you need these specific fruit to go and claim these points. And there's a little bit more to it. There's some donkeys and there's some bonuses if you complete them in certain ways. But I'd say the game does a really good job of focusing on what is a fun thing and then just doing that and not letting the game get too into its own head. And that's something I appreciate more and more as I'm getting more and more seasoned as far as gaming is concerned.
Oh, I thought you were going to say jaded. Like,
oh, well, there's some jaded too, but like, I guess I know what I like. And I also have an appreciation for things that are able to be fun while not creating the illusion of fun via complexity.
I think I've got a good analogy for you for this. It's like when you're new to food and you're like your food maxing, you're like, give me the burger, give me the bacon double, triple, ultra maximum burger, deep fried, with a pickle on top type stuff. And when you get older and perhaps wiser, you start to enjoy the subtlety. You're like, nah, give me like the fish with like one thing on it, and it just is like, it hits different. I don't know.
I totally agree with you. I would definitely say as you get older, as you've gotten more exposure, you kind of refine your palate. That doesn't mean that's a better approach. I think that just reflects like where you are in terms of the hobby. Because I don't think I'm more right for liking simple games. Like it's not like I have attained nirvana or whatever. Right. I think it's just a personal taste thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of truth to like, as you get into a thing, you want to experience like all of it and a bunch of it. And as you get more refined, you want to experience just the distilled version of what you enjoy the most in it. It makes sense, me just saying it out loud. So,
and it's not like you can't go back to like an epic deep fried triple patty burger or whatever every once in a while, but it's not it's not what you reach for by default any longer.
Exactly.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Or I would even say just at this time, maybe it'll come back,
Sure.
Finca, I also like how snappy it is. Like your turn comes back around real quick. And everybody was kind of playfully being like, oh, you're going to do that? You're going to do that? No, I'm going to do that. There's a lot of this kind of like when you want to cash out scenario, which is also really fun. The game reminded me a lot of the Red Cathedral because they both have that like when your piece lands in a certain location, you get as many resources as there are pieces there. I would say the Red Cathedral is more complex, has more interesting routes to take, but the Finca is more streamlined, is more concise, allows you to focus on the core of what's exciting about the two games. So I'm not at a place where I can say like I like one more than the other, and that's kind of surprising to me. I think even though they have a lot of similarities, I'm really enjoying both. That was a Finca from 2009. I think you would like it. Okay, we need to address this. Apparently, I have a lot of thoughts about whether or not people would like games or not. And I was called out on this recently in person.
Right.
So in my mind, it always comes off as like being empathetic and being helpful of like trying to curate games for others. But I realize that not everybody wants that. And so two things. If I've done this and it's annoyed you, I apologize. I'm sorry. You deserve better. And secondly, if you were a victim of this and I am curating games for you without requests, please let me know. I know for some people, they really appreciate that I do that. But for others, it's kind of like, oh, politely like, thanks.
I think it's like a difficult line to walk because you always want to see people enjoying the hobby, like see them kind of getting the most out of it. We're always thinking about optimization. And so it's just like, well, why would they waste their time with a suboptimal experience, right? And probably do that a little bit too much to ourselves in some ways as well. So yeah. There are more than enough people out there in the world that just don't really enjoy even being told what to do or what to expect even. It's almost like a spoiler for them.
My thought is just I need to read the room and see if that's helpful. Sure. I think I need to do some self-evaluation.
I've run into this too. It's really hard, but I'm trying more and more, especially now that I'm like an old man, to wait for the ask, right? Wait for them to ask, like,
wait for the ass.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Wait for the ass.
That was Finca from 2009.
All right. Well, I'll have to check that one out. Because, any game made before 2010 is like guaranteed to be good from my experience. So, because I unfortunately, I had the pleasure of playing Fields of Arle from 2014. I'll let people figure that sentence out. This is designed by Uwe. Is it Uwe or just like Uwe?
I think it's Uwe
Rosenberg. Famous name here. Published by Z-Man Games, at least in the States. This is a 1 or 2 player game, which I find very interesting because the box weighs like 20 pounds.
I thought all of Uwe's games are 1 or 2 player.
We joke about this a lot. Like, I do think a lot of his games, especially these farm simulator, more like Stardew Valley type games, I wonder how much of an influence he was on Stardew Valley. I don't know if, what's his name, has ever spoken to that.
Mr. Stardew?
Yeah, I forget what the name of the developer goes by. A lot of his games, I think, do play best at a maximum of 2. And so in this title, I suppose he simply embraced that. And he said, nope, this is an intimate game. I don't want to figure out how to scale this up or down, maybe. I'm not really sure where it came from that he didn't want to add all the scaling that you would get in something like Agricola or Caverna. But like Agricola, like Caverna, this is very similar in some of those aspects. He's definitely borrowing from himself mechanically with this one. But it's interesting because instead of being some fictional world with like elves and dwarves or whatever, it's straight up like the town his parents or grandparents grew up in. Not sure the exact lore behind this, but I believe it has to do with like his own father's childhood and growing up in this region of Germany that's known for basically producing an abundance of flax, which if you didn't know, you can turn into linen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The thing that this shares with Caverna Agricola is that you have a personal board with some spaces on it, and some of the spaces need to get cleared out in order for you to build productive land on them. Like those other games as well, this is done through worker placement action selection. So pretty standard Uwe stuff. The one thing that I think is a little different from most of those other games is there's this extra mechanic where you have vehicles that have slots on them. And those slots can be filled with some of the goods that you're collecting. Say you get wood from your forests. You can put the raw wood in your cart. And then when the seasons change, aka when a round ends, you flip the wood over and it becomes timber. And then you can turn the clay into brick this way. And then there's some other stuff like the flax you can turn into linen this way. Leather can be turned into leatherware and stuff like that.
It's like a furnace. It's like a crafting bench.
Yeah, very Minecraft style. Chicken jockey. No chickens in this game, which was a bit of a disappointment to my oldest daughter. But I actually got her interested in playing this because I compared it to Stardew Valley, and I think...
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be like, come on, it's just like the Minecraft movie.
Yeah, that's what I should have gone with. They got chicken jockey, flint and steel. There's like crafting tables. No.
Real quick tangent. Minecraft watch here.
Uh-oh. New movie alert.
I did go see a Minecraft movie a second time in theaters.
Holy fuck. No way.
Yeah, I did. I went to see it with Mary and
but not your daughter? You like
No. We all went.
That'd be funny.
Because she wanted to see it again and my wife wanted to see it.
Right.
So
she had to know why you kept saying chicken jockey around the house.
She wanted to know what had caused my brain to melt. and it's still good. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
This time the difference was that I guess the memes have really taken up because there were a bunch of teenagers there. The movie theater was packed, and it was kind of like watching The Room. It's not like the news is reporting where they're like throwing stuff at the screen and things like that. No, it was pretty courteous, but there were certain moments.
Raucous.
There were certain moments where they were all zeroed in, lasered in on saying the lines like, I am Steve. And then they all like politely clapped like a golf clap while laughing. Yeah, it was great. Like, if that's the craziness that the news reporters are talking about, like, I welcome it. Like, please, more in the movies. I really appreciated Jack Black in the second time around because he really leans in. This movie could have been just like kind of for kids, but instead they really leaned in and made it like for kids and also intentionally cringe for teens and adults. So I really appreciate that. The movie does a good job of representing Minecraft, Jack Black, and Napoleon Dynamite. I didn't really think about this. It is sort of pitched as a combination of those three, but all three of them get to have their voice while still feeling cohesive. And I think there's something to be said for that. Like, a lot of times you try to mix just two things in a kid's movie and it really, like, one of them just falls flat or feels forced. But it feels like the three are really in symbiosis in this movie. And that was my review of Fields of Arle.
It's basically a Minecraft movie, but set in East Germany. I'm not sure what exactly I want to say about this game other than I found myself enjoying it more maybe than like Agricola. It feels quicker, but it does all the same things. It feels quicker than Agricola. It still took me like over 2 hours to play it both times. I think it just because it's a back and forth. It's always like 2-player max. You know, solo variant is like not even really that changed. There's this interesting flow between the seasons that mirrors real life, right? Like you're harvesting one season and then you're breeding animals and you're baking your bread in the other season and stuff like that. In a solo variant, the only thing that is different is you can't put one of your workers in that other season. I don't know how to explain this. I think it's like one of his more elegant farm simulator sandbox style games. Everything flows in a very like natural way. Unlike Le Havre, there isn't a scaling, like, feed your people problem. And so in Le Havre, which is a game I really like, you have to sort of know about the timing of things. And there's like kind of like a narrative that takes place in the town as the buildings come out, because the buildings always come out in it's a semi-random order, but they have a serial number on them. And so, you know, like the clay mound doesn't come out until this round typically or something like that, right? And so if you don't know the arc of the game, you're going to find yourself kind of stuck. This game does not have that. It's more forgiving than a lot of maybe his other games in that sense. At the same time, it's still very challenging to do really well. And I haven't cracked the code. I literally had the exact same score both games, which I feel like was a good score. I got like a 93, but there's like supposedly 110 is a remarkable solo score. So I'll have to try this out. I'm debating whether I want to just like read the strategy guide and then try it solo and just see if I can figure it out, or if I want to play it solo a few more times until I hit the 110 myself. And then I go look at the strategy guide to kind of see, you know, what the consensus is on what's good in this game. I'm still enjoying exploring this one. So that's Fields of Arle.
Tom, I got to play Dominion from 2008. You ever heard of this game?
Dominion?
It's a deck builder. Anyway, Donald Vaccarino, publisher Rio Grande. Dominion is the OG deck builder back in the day when there was no deck building games. And then, ta-da, via magic.
In a world with no deck building, one man.
When I was your age, deck building meant making a Magic the Gathering deck.
Yeah, I guess.
For those who aren't familiar, you start with a deck of just cards that allow you to buy other cards. And then you have a market of all kinds of different abilities that you can go and spend that money on. When you spend the money, you add that card to your deck, and then eventually you're going to shuffle and have the new added cards in your deck. Your deck gets bigger and more powerful over time. But then there's all these other cool things you can do where you can cull the original cards from your deck so that it becomes slightly stronger over time. Whole goal is to get a deck running smoothly like an engine so that you can go and start purchasing these point cards, these green cards. I still stand by that Dominion not only was revolutionary, but still stands, still has legs. We played with just the base second edition, as well as some cards from Seaside and expansion. And all four of us had a really fun time playing this. The nice thing with Dominion is when everybody knows how to play, the turns go around really quickly. Kyle's at the table, and for those who aren't familiar with Kyle, he's the one we always bring up as breaking games or being very good at games. He didn't do any sort of like really degenerate things this time, although he did buy a lot of Pearl Divers and was just manipulating the bottom of the deck. He would go like, Pearl Diver, I'll look at the bottom card of my deck. Oh, it's another Pearl Diver. I'll put it on top of my deck. Then I'll play a Pearl Diver. And we're like, oh, okay. So his turns were long. But ultimately, Holly ended up winning at the table, which,
oh wow,
just for context, Holly always wins the games that she plays. She's mostly trying to have like a good time. She's not here like sweating. You know, you'll have Tom at the table, you'll have Kyle at the table. Everybody's trying really hard, you know, and then Holly will just be like, oh, I guess I won. She makes it look easy, which is like very impressive. But the reason I'm extra surprised about this one is like she had just worked for like, I don't know, 16 hours straight. And she comes to the game night and she's like, I'm just going to give everyone a heads up. I'm probably going to be pretty exhausted for this one. And I'm just trying to have a good time. So if I don't make any sense, it's because my brain is dead. And she still wins. So
major flex. Accidental flex.
I think we need to get on Holly's level is what I'm saying. It was fun. In classic Dominion fashion, I just bought some cards to see what they would do and had a good time doing it. Didn't do very well, but you know.
I'm surprised because I thought you were like kind of like Dominion maxing for a while. So I'm like, what happened to your skills, man?
I would Dominion max on the app. I don't feel the need to in person.
Okay.
Well, for one, I'm out of touch. You know, I haven't been keeping up with things, but also like
the meta.
I don't know. I kind of want to just play cards that I don't usually play and things like that.
Yeah. You're not sweating big money every time, is what you're saying, really.
I'm not saying like, oh, the only reason I didn't win is because I wasn't playing optimally or whatever. Like, I'm fairly certain I still wouldn't have won, even if I was trying my hardest. But, you know, I was just experimenting. I was seeing what would be fun to like combine together. And yeah, I had a great time. Dominion continues to be great. I understand why some people have cooled off on it and prefer a more randomized setup. But for me, I really like the fact that you can kind of plan, try to figure out your line of victory, and then you play it out. There's not really too much that's going to change during the game, but it's so short that you don't really mind either. It almost feels like an auto battler of deck building games to a certain extent because of that.
An auto battler. That's an interesting comparison. You lay out a plan and you basically just follow the plan from the beginning. There's not going to be any surprises, which is, you know, for some people you're saying that's a downside, but in Dominion, there's still like enough sort of like variance.
Yeah.
There's still agency at every step.
Dominion from 2008.
Probably one of the most shelf-stable games of all time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree.
That sounds fun. I recently got to play Renature. This one is from 2020, so it's newly minted, newly certified old here on Shelf Stable. This is designed by Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer, published by Pegasus Spiele. Wolfgang Kramer, you think most of his games are very approachable, very like simple concepts, and then he sort of like builds off of it mechanically. And then I don't know if it's him or if it's Kiesling that comes up with this other idea, but you find this in Wandering Towers, and it's here in this game, is you have a limited resource of some kind, and then there are these free actions that you can take. So there's one main action that you always have to take, and then there's an unlimited amount of free actions, but you have to pay for them with some resource that you don't get that much of. So that is present here. I have a lot of thoughts about this game. So the first thing is it's almost an abstract game. You're laying dominoes out on a board, and you are encircling these enclosures. As you encircle the enclosures, you're planting these trees or bushes, and you're trying ultimately to have a majority in these enclosures by adding up the values of each of the plants in your color. What throws that off a little bit is that there's also neutral plants that all players have on their boards. So first and second place are going to score points, but then you get these neutral plants that sort of mess up the math. And then the other kicker is that when you tie, both of the tied players are just basically eliminated from the area. And only players without a tie get to score anything. So yeah, like a lot of interesting kind of mathiness to that.
Wouldn't that give advantage to the third player, basically? Like they focus slightly on something else and the two who are ahead tie on something? I guess that's a point, right?
If you're the second player in the scenario you described, you're going to want to make sure that the plant that you're placing puts you at least 1 point ahead of whatever player has gone before you. But yeah, the third player could just mess it up entirely. So I don't know. I don't know if that speaks to it having a king-making problem. It doesn't really matter. It's like a pretty light 30 to 40-ish minute game, I'd say. It was fun. I liked what the mechanisms were doing. There was always these interesting moments where it was like, I don't have the exact domino that I would need to attack the area that I want to place a tree, but I could spend my clouds to change the Joker animal to make my domino playable in that field. But every cloud that I don't spend is a point. So it's like I'm giving up some points to do that. There's just, there's a lot of good things to think about. And it stayed pretty engaging and interesting the whole way. The thing that bugs me about this game more than anything is its art design, art direction. I don't know what they were on exactly, but I think this game is ugly. So I'm really sorry if you're out there listening, you disagree. The problem is it has this theme of you're rebuilding some sort of woodland. Maybe it was devastated by fires or just pollution, who knows? And so you're reclaiming it. That's where the name of the game comes from, renaturing, right? The animals depicted on the dominoes, though, they look like flashcards for learning your letters for children. That's like what the art looks like.
I know exactly what you're describing, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like B is for butterfly. That's what the butterfly looks like. And then there's like an owl and a fox and blah, 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 blah. And so it doesn't have like its own style. It looks like they basically found clip art of all these different animals, more or less. On top of that, encircling the board is like the points track. And it's like sunflowers the whole way around. And then the clouds have like this goofy shape. Like you feel like you're in kindergarten looking at this. It's very off-putting. I'm not usually that hung up on like the art of a game per se. But this one like just, I think I even delayed. I've had this on my want to playlist for a while because I just keep seeing it show up in lists where people are like, this is a good game. And I think I put it off because like it looked kind of ugly on the box. And then actually playing it, I was just like, this game is fucking ugly. I'm really sorry to the artist on this one. I'm not sure what happened. I do better, I guess. I don't know. The other thing, though, that bugs me about this is because it's not entirely the artist's fault, I think. I think it's like it doesn't make that much sense. Why are the trees seemingly almost at war with each other? Why are they competing to be like the dominant species? And then with the animals, it's like, what does it matter that like the foxes are like touching each other? Like, why do like animal dominoes make any sense for this? It didn't feel like it came together very well.
Sounds like it's an abstract that just they tacked a theme onto, which is like a nature theme because that's popular.
Oh yeah, totally. They were just like, well, Hargrave got Wingspan out there. We got to basically put some sort of back to nature theme on this. The thing is that I have a theme that I think works a lot better. So hear me out. Instead of animals, imagine if they were just numbered dominoes, but it's like you're building a castle wall. You're building your castles.
Okay.
And you're trying to be like a dominant faction inside of the walls. And so you're putting banners of like different sizes.
I got you. So, and then the different factions would be like anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah, then you could get gangsters. The furries in there and yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. You could do like a Cthulhu reskin too.
Yeah, why not? I'm not saying that wouldn't have felt and looked uninspired, perhaps. I could totally see that. But I do think like mechanically it would have made like more sense. The theme would have actually glued the individual pieces together in a way that felt more like logical. But I digress. I don't know. It just like thematically a bit of a miss. And then on top of that, the art was like really dumb. It's like it's only 5 years old. I think it would benefit from a reprint, ironically, where they just, I don't know, they got like furries in there or something. You know, that's Renature. Good game, weird art decisions, but a nice little abstract.
100 games to play before you die.
That's right. This is the part of the episode where we talk about the 100 games that you need to play before you turn 100 and or die, whichever comes first. For those who don't know, there's a list out there that Kenny made up that covers the 100 games.
You say Kenny made up. It's not like I just like threw stuff at a fan, you know? I spent a lot of time on this thing.
Kenny worked extremely hard, and I was there for it. He collected data from many different sources, got the opinions of true gamers to figure out the 100 games that perhaps best represent the diaspora of the board gaming world. And so each week we're trying to talk about those games. It's been a minute since we've had this segment.
Whoa, game Jesus number Christ, just say
29
it. 29
is Carcassonne from 2000, designed by Klaus-Jürgen Wrede and published by Hans im Glück. Kenny, why is this game on the list?
Carcassonne, tile laying. So that's the main reason. It's another one of those foundational evergreen games as well. Kind of like Ticket to Ride or Splendor and so on and so on. Carcassonne notoriously is my mom's favorite game that I introduced to her. It's a game where you have no board. What? This was revolutionary back in the day when it came out. But you put the tiles in a stack face down and then you get going. And at the time when it came out, people were like, how do we start? What? And then you reveal to them that the tiles have different ways that they can match up as you reveal them, and you're basically building a big puzzle. And they go, whoa, this is awesome. I don't know why I said that like Kevin Malone. Whoa, this is awesome. Well, anyway, you're trying to optimize the placement of these tiles to get the most points. You're placing the meeples on the different parts of this world that you're building, this city of Carcassonne. Fun little fact, I believe this is where the term meeple comes from. Alison Hansel, I think, coined the term when she was referring to the Carcassonne pieces. And from there, it kind of became a staple in the board game community. Anytime you have a wooden piece that represents a person called a meeple. I enjoy Carcassonne. It's not one that I like pop off the shelf every 2 weeks, but I definitely am willing to play this and pick up a game or two here and there. It's a fun one to play with a family. Tom, you got thoughts?
I feel like I like Carcassonne more and more as I get older. I'm not very good at it. The thing about it that I first thought when I originally played it was like, how come you only get to look at one tile? It seems like you don't have very many decisions to make. Wouldn't it be better if you could draw like 3 tiles and pick the best one at a given time? And now I'm just like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
It allows the game to have like a pretty steady flow. Some people do house rule that you get multiple tiles, either 2 or 3. The house rule that we use in our home is you draw your tile at the end of your turn versus at the beginning of your turn. That way you can think about where you're going to place it when your turn comes around. It just makes things a little bit breezier. I really think they should work that into the actual rules, but that's just my opinion.
Carcassonne is one of those games that it gets played at a relatively high level. Have you played this much with like expansions at all? Because I understand that every like version of Carcassonne also works as an expansion if it isn't just an expansion itself. Played
with like the river expansion that comes with a lot of the base game copies. But that's about it. And I do like it. Everybody always says Carcassonne is so much better with a few expansions. So maybe we got to revisit it and do some of that. It was Carcassonne from 2000.
Okay, Kenny. Well, enough of that bullshit. Whatever the fuck we've been talking about. Some sort of Carcassonne-ass game. You place tiles. It's like Minecraft in some way. You have a golden pickaxe. You got a diamond pickaxe. You got a crafting table. You got chicken jockeys.
What are you talking about? Why would
you can make golden pickaxes.
Yeah, but why would you ever use a golden pickaxe?
They have higher enchantment capabilities.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it would be a waste of time, probably, but you can technically get more enchantments or better enchantments on a gold tool.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact for our Minecraft fans out there. But anyway, it's time to talk about the thing that people come around week after week to listen to, the part of the show that they actually care about, the real meat and potatoes of this week's episode, and that is the main topic, playing through your shelf of shame. The shelf of shame. Should you feel ashamed?
The shelf of shame. So in general, I feel like it's still more beneficial to just create a diamond pickaxe because you're going to get a lot more uses out of it, even if you enchant a gold pickaxe with like unbreaking or something like that. I guess maybe if you get mending as an enchantment, but...
Well, you could get mending, you could get unbreaking and mending.
Yeah, I think that's the dream. But that also requires some pretty gross villager stuff, so...
You could also get, like fortune and shit like that. So you're like, you just get more diamonds out of it. That's the real upside in theory.
Okay.
So you mine all the cobblestone away with the diamond pickaxe that you hopefully put like unbreaking on, and you can dig through the cobblestone ultra fast because it also has like sharpness for, and then you switch to your gold pickaxe.
Wait. Sharpness is for hurting.
Oh, you're right. What's the thing that makes you like blast through rock super fast? What's the enchantment that speeds it up?
I don't know. Write into us. Let us know. It's been a while.
Yeah, we got to get back into the Minecraft game. I got to go see the movie so I can remember how all this works. I'm sure they explain it in a lot of detail.
Tom, what's your shelf of shame like?
It's super fucking small.
Yeah.
Actually, Fields of Arle was on my shelf of shame. That was a game that was gifted to me. And I think it'd been like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I don't really have a shelf of shame. I sometimes have games unplayed, but then I'll bring them to the next game night. I don't even put them on a shelf because I just picked them up and then play them. Maybe it's almost like a compulsion, though. I'm like, I need to play these. But I don't really have one. I also have unplayed games, but usually I have zero desire to play them. It's not like I bought them and then I regret it. It's more like they were gifted to me or somebody else in the house purchased them, things like that.
So I have to wonder, it's like, does having a small or non-existent shelf of shame make us highly qualified to talk about your shelf of shame, or does it actually make us extremely underqualified? You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
maybe,
are we...
Yeah, maybe the bigger thing is like how to play through your games, because we're good at that, I would say. So I'd say we're qualified.
Okay. Well, I mean, fuck. They gave us the microphone, so...
Yeah, exactly.
People want to know from us.
The people
what our
want to
opinions
know.
Are.
So there's this really great video that I'm going to link that is not about board games, but it is about video games. And it is called How I Finished My Gaming Backlog 1 year later. And it's about video games, but I think it still translates really well to the topic that we have today. This is one where I really resonated with some of what he was saying because I had these experiences as well as I played through games. In my case, it was less about playing games that I hadn't played that are in my library, but more about playing games that were on my want to play list and getting through a big chunk of that. What this person describes in this video is they started the year with a goal of getting through their backlog. They made a spreadsheet and they started to have like a very operationalized approach to going through things and immediately faced burnout. And that's something similar to what I faced as far as my want to play list. Especially when I was building the 100 games to play list, there were a lot of games that I wanted to play to just see if they were worth including in the list. But he felt like he wasn't able to fully experience a game, or if he wanted to fully experience each game, It was going to take way longer than he expected and way more playing, to the point where he wasn't enjoying himself.
Right, it just becomes work.
Yeah, if you have the choice between not playing any of your Shelf of Shame games and playing them in a way that where you're not even having a good time, I would choose to not play them. Because, like, what are you even doing at that point? I don't know. Do you feel the same way, Tom, where it's like, it's not even worth it if you're just forcing yourself to do it?
No, yeah, there's a point at which you are turning what should be play into work.
Yeah.
It's like it's an obligation. You're not doing it for any reason other than that sort of completionist mindset. And, you know, I've fallen victim to that even in just a couple of video games. And it's like, it's not like in some unforgivable sin or whatever to just want to see something through to the end, even after it has outstayed its welcome.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like, why are you doing this if you're not having a good time, you know?
You almost just don't want to get started on that path where you're like, okay, I'm dedicating 2 hours of my life every day to this thing. Like then it's just a chore.
Yep.
Right. Maybe clear your schedule to allow for that. And then if it hits 4 p.m. and that's your 2 hour time frame, 4 to 6, and you're like, vibe check, is playing Fields of Arle want to do tonight? And if the answer is no, fucking go watch Severance or whatever the fuck you were going to do instead.
Exactly. So that's the first thing before we go into anything about how to actually do it. You should be having fun. If you're not having fun, you should stop. No level of buyer's remorse is worth it. The second thing that kind of stood out in this video that I resonated with is that the more he played the games, and as he started to approach those walls, he had an epiphany. There are games that ended up on that list that he's changed his opinion and his desire about since he put him on the list. Some of them he put on, but it was like an afterthought. He was just like, oh yeah, I've heard this is good. If you have a game like that, there's two things that can happen. One is you just straight up don't play it. Like maybe you watch a few more videos, you just think about it a little bit more in the shower, and you're like, you know what, I don't need to play this, and I'm okay with that. And then you sell it, or you donate it, or something like that. You put it up at the next swap. The other thing is like, maybe you do play, but you don't dedicate as much time to it as you would a full playthrough. Like, you're not a reviewer.
Yeah, this is likely, if you're listening to us, not your job at the moment.
Exactly. So if you're a reviewer, I mean, don't listen to this, but like, nothing is obligating you to dedicate quote unquote 3 plays to a game that you're still kind of feeling iffy about or something like that. Let alone one play. Like maybe you commit to just opening the box. Maybe you commit to just reading the rule book even. You can find most rule books online.
I love that you brought up the 3 plays thing, because it rings very reminiscent of an idea in anime called like the 3 episode rule. You've heard of that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is not just anime, it's like TV in general and stuff. And there is a great creator out there. Her name escapes me at the moment. I think it's like YGG Studio, like Yig Studio or something. It's called something like How to Spot, and we'll put this in the show notes, How to Spot a Bad Anime in 1 episode. That was very eye-opening for me, because basically the point they made was there's never a show that from episode 1 starts off awful and then becomes great. There's like maybe some shows that start off like mediocre and become really good or pretty good because of like the twist or conceit, the plot. But like there's a lot more that you can tell from even just the first like 5 minutes of a show that'll tell you kind of what to expect about the quality and the direction that things are going to go in. The plot, sure, could get like really interesting, drop like a major twist. I think Modica Magica, I won't spoil it, but there's a big shift that happens in episode 3.
Yeah. Or like Finding Neverland or something like that.
Yes, Finding Neverland. Promise Neverland. Yeah.
Finding Neverland is the documentary.
That's
about
like
Michael
that movie. Yeah. That one has a big twist. No, so yeah, there can be some major twists, and the plot could shift in an unexpected direction for sure, but the quality is not necessarily going to go somewhere you weren't expecting. And this, you know, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that it's like probably true for Food Chain Magnate for me. It's like the game is not going to change fundamentally the more you play it. if you're playing it, even if you're halfway through the play and you're just like, this is boring and uninteresting, I don't expect that like 3 games later that it's like not going to be, it's going to get more fun if you're bored.
Yeah, there's a logical fallacy that I feel like gets touted quite a bit in board gaming, which is that some games take more time to show how good they are. Therefore, you should play games for longer than when you hit that point where you don't enjoy them. And the reason I say that's a fallacy is because, yes, I agree with the first statement, but no, I don't agree with the outcome of that statement, like the follow-up. Yes, some games take a while to really breathe and show their value, and that's why you need to play them multiple times. However, you don't have an obligation to get there with any game. I think it's important to not review or evaluate a game if you didn't give it that space. But reviewing and evaluating is different than playing and enjoying, if that makes sense. So let's give an example. Poo Mafiosi. This was a pretty controversial game with you and I.
Yes.
Knizia game. I love Knizia. We started playing it. We played it with the wrong rules.
We messed up a few things.
We messed up a few things in the first round. And after that messed up first round, I said, this is dumb. I don't want to play this anymore. Now, this was a point of contention because Tom was like, you didn't even give this game a chance. However, I stand by that. Yes, it is not correct for me to review this game, which is why I'm not going to like provide a review or say it's bad. I feel like I have said it's bad on this podcast, but I'm not going to say it in good faith, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to give it a legit take because I didn't give it a chance. However, I am not obligated based on my experience to go back and play it. Like, nothing says that because I had a bad experience, but I didn't give it a chance, I have to go back and give it a good experience. Like, or give it a legit chance. Like, I don't have to. If I didn't enjoy it, I don't have to go back to it. And it doesn't matter that it could have been better. Like, there's plenty of good games out there. I don't agree with that argument. So yes, it is correct that you should give something a chance if you're willing to stand by whatever statements you make by it. But standing by statements is different than enjoyment. You could very well just not have an opinion about something and say, I didn't play it enough to have an opinion, but the little I did play, I didn't enjoy enough to keep going.
You know, again, the fact that you're bringing this up is something I love because it was what I was thinking of in the back of my mind. Because longtime listeners of this podcast and or our friends listening to this podcast are probably hearing me say what I just said earlier about like you can know from the first play if it's really going to be like your thing or not. Because I famously struggle to actually let people live by that when it's a game that I care about or like. Now, with Poo Mafiosi, I was winning. I don't know if that's why I was enjoying the game more than seemingly anyone else. It's possible. But I thought there was something a little more to it than I thought anyone else was seeing. And so when everyone was like ready to quit on it, I was perhaps, I hadn't had my Snickers recently. I just like was feeling a little upset that we hadn't actually even truly played it. No, and everyone's totally like calling it quits. But to be fair, it's like, I think people should be able to make that call. And I think in general, like with the OFF, we love to go back and forth with the OFF. I like to argue that, you haven't given it a fair shot, even though you've played it like 4 times. It's just because like I have a very personal attachment to that game. So it's like hard for me to accept that someone, is not into it.
Right.
You have to be willing to put your feelings aside. And I'm speaking to myself here sometimes and just accept like not everything's for everyone.
Yeah.
And it is valid to play it once and be like, that fucking sucked, Yeah.
But I need to own things a little bit on my end because sometimes I'm like, yeah, the HUV sucks. And I'm joking, but maybe not everybody knows that I'm joking. So the corollary to what you're saying is if you didn't give a game a fair shot or you didn't play it enough times to have an opinion, maybe don't provide your critical input. And that's something I could learn from what we're talking about too. Because sometimes this happens in our group where they're like, oh yeah, I played Blood Rage once and some weird situation happened. That game sucks. And it's like, I played Blood Rage too and I had a great time and I didn't have the experience you did. So,
Yes, I think you're getting to something where it's like there's a subjective reality and the objective reality or whatever.
Right, exactly.
People like to, they equate like their personal experience with the game to, oh, it just must be a fact of the game that it always ends up like this and it sucks and it's swingy or it's kingmakey or blah, blah, blah. They're giving like opinions about it, like from almost a mechanical stance or from like an impartial observer stance. And the reality is, no, I didn't like it. That's what you should be saying. Like, I didn't care for it.
I didn't like it. I only played it once. Okay. So how do I play through things?
Step 1, don't play everything 3 times.
Yeah, that
shouldn't be a requirement.
Times.
Okay. That's the tip.
Yeah.
Tip number 2. Sorry. Go for it.
Well, step 1 is make a list. I think we kind of briefly glossed over that. Make a list, like state your goals and what consists of those goals. 2 is feel free to change that list and also, don't feel obligated to play something you're not enjoying. 3 is be preventative. You don't have to play the game on your shelf of shame if it doesn't get on the shelf. We talk about this all the time. But my step process, listen up, kids. Here's Kenny's 5-step process. I actually don't know if it's 5 steps.
You just saw a video on Instagram where someone said, this might be my favorite new game. Okay, here's the steps you need to take when you get convinced.
Step 1, watch a full video. Get the vibe. Even if it's like a 3-minute talking about the game or whatever, it'll probably get you more hyped on the game. But if you watch the video and you're like, ooh, maybe I'm not so sure about this, that is a red flag. Okay, you should be more excited about a game after watching either the preview or some reviewer talking about it. Like, that's the reason we have reviewers, right? I mean, one of the reasons is it's to provide critical thought around games, but it's also to give you an idea of whether you're going to like it or not.
Watch the Rodney video. Watch the Rado video.
Do not just blindly click buy because you saw a teaser that's like designed to just hype you on things and push product. Like, watch a critical review.
Don't buy in just on like name and pedigree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't be like, oh, it's from this designer. I'm gonna go and get it now, or this artist. Like, just
look. If you're trying to be if it's a collection thing, I get it. Like, sure, go for it. That's your own prerogative. But if it's like, well, I've heard, this new game from Kinesia is coming out and it's going to be freaking epic. That's not necessarily a guarantee. I mean, it's a safer bet for sure, but it's not guaranteed.
So that's the first sub-step within this step or whatever. We're getting a little layered here. Let's call these phases.
Don't just open up your wallet. That's step 1. Okay, keep your wallet in your pants.
So
keep it in your pants.
Phase 2 is read the rule book. So this is really hard for people to do, but I would argue that if you are motivated enough to get through the rule book, then you should purchase the game. It's so much easier to buy something than to put in effort. But effort shows that you care, is, I think, my argument.
It's kind of like putting your money where your mouth is, or maybe putting
you're going to have to do it anyway. You're going to have to do it anyway. And if you don't do it, you could get to a point where you read the rulebook as you open the game, as you open the box for the first time, and then you're like, ugh, why did I get this? That happens all the time. Just let me augment your 5-step process here. I think this is a better step 3. And here's why. And I think I know where you're going. No, yeah, well, it'd be better as step 3. Step 2 should be find out if you know someone who owns this game. Because you don't have to read the rule book if they've read the rule book. That's a good point, actually. I'm okay. All right, let's make this six steps or phases. 6 phases. All right.
Okay.
Phase 1.
Step 1, don't buy it. Watch a video.
Phase 1, don't buy it. Watch a video. And when I say video, I don't mean like a hype piece. I mean like somebody that's trying to be critical about it, and or a video detailing the mechanisms. A mechanism / an overview of the theme.
Yeah.
Phase 2. Figure out if somebody already owns it or knows a lot about the game, because then you can get their take. Phase 3. I like that, Tom. Read the rule book.
Well, ideally you play it with them. Like,
right. We got
why
branching.
would you ever not try it before you buy it?
Phase 3, assuming that you can't get to that point. Phase 3, read the rule book. At this point, I think you're okay to buy it. However, there are some additional stages that are kind of checkpoints if you really want to hold yourself accountable. So let's go through that. Phase 4, asterisk, optional phase. Play it on Tabletop Simulator or simulate what it would be like to play it. Okay, this is one that's very much optional, but if you really want to be diligent about all this, and you might be thinking at this point, like, this is way too much work. That's the point. You should set roadblocks for yourself.
An ounce of prevention. Yeah. A pound of prevention, perhaps, but
maybe we're being too prescriptive. Again, this is like from my perspective, how I approach things. So when I say you, I mean myself. I'm just going through my thought process. I don't want anybody to feel obligated or feel like we're being condescending, because like this is very much my approach to things. So maybe I'll use me in these contexts. You receive the game, you've purchased it. Phase 5, yeah, there were more phases. Can you believe that? Mm-hmm. Sit down and play the game two-handed solo. Now, I explicitly say two-handed solo because if you play the solo mode might be a different experience. The reason this is a step for me is because twofold. One, I might just stop there and be like, nope, this game is not for me. I'm not interested in it anymore. The second reason is I am guaranteed to go into my first game with a much better teach. We've talked about this in the past. This is a great opportunity to make sure that you actually know how the game works and you've found out what those weird edge cases are ahead of time. So
there's always like a FAQ that is just not in the rule book, and it comes out as soon as you play it. Typically.
Yeah, so get the flow of the game. And then phase 6, at that point, you should have so much prep work done that you're just like, I'm just ready to go. It'd be foolish of me to not play it. Again, this isn't like a sunk cost. It's more like you're amped about it at that point. Phase 6, play the game. That's how you get things to not even hit your shelf of shame. At least that's how I do it. And I know this isn't the case for everyone. For me, every step of that process, outside of maybe the phase 4 where you're, testing it in some kind of print and play or tabletop simulator version, every step of that process is fun. And I know that's not going to be the case for everybody, but I like watching the video. I like doing an investigation. I like reading rules. So this works for me. This might not work for you, but maybe some of it might work for you, and that might help you to either prevent some games from getting purchased and other games allow them to breathe and actually hit the table.
Mm-hmm. You hopefully, ideally, have like a group of people in your life that are down to play games with you. And so if you're going to be making a purchase in the near future, what's to stop you from explicitly telling the group, hey, ahead of time, I'm bringing this. I'm going to buy it this week. Yeah. We got to play it.
And that's perfectly okay. We've talked about that too. Like, you don't want to abuse it, but if you got a good group, you can just be like, hey, I really want to get this played. I feel like sometimes people are hesitant about that. And that's why a lot of games don't get played. It's because they don't want to assert that. I know it can be hard in a social setting, but like everybody that you play with is probably rooting for you anyway. They're not going to be like, ugh, I don't want to play this. That's
or if they are going to do that, they're just going to not reply. They'll just be like, yeah, I'll let someone else take the L on that one. I don't feel like Imperial Steam.
So that was the phase structure for preventing the shelf of shame to begin with. Shall we roll back up to the steps to... This is getting so convoluted.
Okay, so that was your 6-step prevention plan for the shelf of shame.
Within the steps to play through your shelf of shame.
Okay.
There's like an Inception kind of thing going on.
All right, so let's say that you're already stuck. You backed like 20 Kickstarters 10 years ago. They just haven't made it off the shelf. What am I supposed to do about like these 400 games that I haven't played but I own?
So you made the list, you set goals for yourself. You started playing some of them. I think we didn't mention that, but just play something. That's how you get out of the rut. You start realizing some are not even worth it, and you start selling or trading them or just being okay with them not getting played. They don't count, basically.
I think you're underselling kind of like how difficult emotionally that step can be. Because I think a lot of the reason that shelves of shame grow so much is that we get stuck in this mindset of like, well, I can't sell this to anyone yet. I haven't played it myself. I spent $80.
Point, yeah.
I spent $100. I'm locked in. Even if by now you've learned that like the designer was a racist and it turns out that the mechanics are really dull and like it's not very inventive or something. It's just like you're just still sitting there like I spent money on this. It would just be a complete waste for me to not play it by now.
Right.
Yeah. It's a fallacy, but how do you get over the emotions of that?
I don't know that we're equipped to handle that question. I know it can be tough. You know, we've experienced that too. So I don't know if we have an answer for that one. That might be a topic in and of itself.
Well, I think what's helped me is the Marie Kondo thing. Honestly, This is probably where she shines really well, which is that you tell it thanks. Like, hey, you were a part of my life for all these years. You're on my shelf. You're still in shrink. And, you know, I want to say thank you for representing what I was interested in at the time, but I've grown past the need for this, and it's time for you to find a more loving home, really.
It's about the experience. It's what it provided you. And sometimes what it provided you is just the experience of purchasing it. And, you know, if you're not feeling that way about it anymore, it's okay to give it a new home. We went to a buffet in Vegas, the Caesar's buffet, with our friend Josh. And it was very expensive, and we ate a lot of food. And when Josh got out of it, he was ready to puke. And my feedback to him was like, you had the experience. Hey, like, you know, we're not starving. We have the luxury of like not needing to keep this food in our bellies. If you got to puke, you got to puke. You know, you're turning an experience that was really fun into something where you're forcing yourself to feel sick so you can quote unquote get the value of the food in your stomach. And he was like, oh, Thank God, you're totally right. And he like ran and threw up. Those board games are the food that you overbought. Just throw it up. You got the pleasure from it. Thank it for that experience. Because there's nothing left there despite you wanting it to be there. If you're still not able to get that to that point where it would cause you more pain to get rid of it because of the effort required, or because, you know, that's still that feeling that you could have played it, don't get rid of it. But don't consider it part of your shelf of shame. Just treat it as a game you're never going to play that you're still holding on to because of X. It's not something I do personally, but it's better than being mean to yourself. We didn't mention this, but like in the video game example, there are games that person purchased that he never got around to, and he's okay with that, because there's a difference between it being on your want to play list / shelf of shame and it being a game that you never got around to playing but that you still own. Like, those are two different things. It's a different paradigm, even though like the state is the same. I think there's this implication that if it's on your shelf of shame, you have to play it or get rid of it. It is okay for it to come off the shelf, and you've done neither of those. There's a third route, which is I'm keeping it because there's a sentimental value to just owning it. So there's that too.
Right. Yeah, I like that mindset. This is definitely something that kind of requires the privilege of having that much space. But yeah, if you can have the shelf of games where it's like you want to play it, you know, you want to get to it eventually, and then you otherwise have a shelf where it's just like, yeah, I bought this and I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
We'll see if something magical happens that makes me care to open it up or whatnot. Maybe invite a friend over who's like, wow, I've always wanted to play that.
Yeah, there you go. The opportunity lends itself. So I have like one more note, or the final step in whatever, I don't even know, like the final point that ties back to that video. And this is kind of an optimistic one to end on. As he was starting to get into this rhythm of dropping games off that he just didn't feel like playing anymore, and playing and really enjoying the games that he wanted to play, he got into a flow state where there was a momentum. It felt like things were self-fulfilling and things were cyclical in a positive way. What I mean by that is he got to play more games. He got to actually enjoy them and play through them. And as he was playing more games, he refined what he liked and didn't like in games. And he knew more about himself and what he was interested in. And that affected how he managed his to-play list. More games came off the list as a result, which kept him motivated to play the other games that he did enjoy. And it kind of like fed into itself. The point I'm trying to make is, if you start to cull and you start to play, you're going to understand yourself better, and that will allow you to better cull and play. It's positive reinforcement. A good example of this is as I got to play more and more games, I started to understand that like games that have very little interaction can still be fun, but they're not really what I'm looking for currently in my life. And so a lot of games that are in the top 100 that I was like, oh, I gotta play this, I just went, no. I know that I don't like these kind of games, and I'll gladly play it if somebody brings it up, but it's not one that I have to put on my checklist that I gotta complete. I gotta play this one.
Why undermine yourself? Know yourself, trust yourself. If you're like, I just know I'm not going to have a good time with that. Yeah, you're probably right at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like
the caveat is don't be exclusionary. Like don't already think you're going to not like a game because of knowing yourself well enough. It's very different to say, I am never going to play a game of this type versus I'm not like forcing myself to play a game of this type. Be open to exploring different things and seek to explore different things, but don't make it an item on your checklist, especially if it's a game you purchased and you think you won't like.
It's like that fancy cheese. Like you don't have to go on the black market to buy that cheese that has like maggots in it from France or Italy or whatever.
Well, actually, I think you are required to do that to be a cheese snob, but...
The only problem with eating the cheese with maggots in it is then you have to like swallow a spider to get the maggot.
That's true.
It's to like swallowing a cat to catch the spider.
Yeah.
Brought it all the way back around.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
That was good, Tom.
That is going to do it for this week. I think we've gone on long enough. Thank you everybody for listening to us. Thank you for taking our advice. Tell us if it worked out for you. Let us know. You can do that on Board Game Geek, where we have our Ultra thread. But I want to give another special shout out to Michael, Tyler, Devin, and Josh of the Boise Rainbows for your awesome segue music that we finally got to use again. And thank you to Bonehouse for letting us use your song Rot as our opening theme.
If you're loving the cast, share it with a friend or on Reddit or on BGG. It's the best thing you can do to help us grow. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, send us an email at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. All of this and more will be available in the show notes. Tom? What Tom pick?
Well, you know what? We just talked so much about clearing your shelf of shame, and part of that was a big instructional on how to learn the game. Why don't we tell people how to teach the game next week?
Oh.
Let's dive into some of the tips and tricks that we've learned from teaching games all these many years.
Okay.
'Cause we're so old.
Let's do it. Bye.
See y'all.